Tuhan, biarlah kegiatan seminar pada hari ini boleh berjalan dengan baik seturut dengan kehendak-Mu. Ampunkanlah kami Tuhan atas setiap dosa, kesalahan dan pelanggaran yang kami lakukan. Ini doa, ini permohonan syukur kami. Hanya di dalam nama Tuhan Yesus Kristus kami berdoa. Now we will hear the welcoming speech from Reverend Irene Luigi, PhD. Please.
Siang teman-teman semua. Apakah excited untuk belajar? Sekali lagi, apakah excited untuk belajar bersama? Professor Zuckerberger, this is my philosophy class, and there are 70 students in this class. Hopefully they will engage with you and Ibu Mariska PhD and learn as best as they can. Teman-teman, Ibu sangat mengharapkan teman-teman memanfaatkan kesempatan belajar ini dengan sungguh-sungguh. Dari 3 kelas PFI, hanya kelas teman-teman yang dimasuki langsung oleh Profesor Christoph Zuckerberger. In this class, I have 2 assistants who help me with organizing the class. I would like to introduce them. Novi, can you please come forward? And then Maylin, please come forward. Please introduce yourself and your research. Professor, both of them are doing research in ethics as well. They're nervous.
Okay, hello everyone. Well, I am standing here because I would like to introduce myself. My name is Novi Tolaka. You can call me Novi. I come from Nusa Tenggara. I am student in the Faculty of Theology class 2021. This semester I was endorsed by Mrs. Aaron to be assistant lecturer in one of her classes, namely an introduction to the philosophy of science. And shortly, I am also in the step of writing a super talent assignment with little review of ethic pedagogy, student responsibility for education service at Jamie Tibedu Elementary School. Well, they all about my introduction. Thank you.
Elementary ethics and pedagogical stuff.
Okay, hello everyone. Good afternoon. Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Maylin Tarigan. People usually call me Maylin. And now I am writing a thesis about philosophical divinity of Leibniz on the views of people with disabilities in school for students with special needs, Salatiga about God justice. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for making it possible for this class to meet Professor Zuckerberger and also Ibu Mariska. Thank you, everyone. Let's go.
Thank you, Reverend Luigi, for the opening remarks. Well, alright everyone, it's time to get started. Let's welcome our speakers with a big round of applause. Professor Dr. Christoph Zuckerberger, and also Reverend Mariska Lauterboom, and our interpreter, Mr. Riovan Hidayat. Please come forward. Okay, before we hear from our speakers, I will quickly read their impressive CVs. First one from Professor Dr. Christoph Zuckelberger. Professor Dr. Christoph Zuckelberger is a founder and president of the Global Ethics.net Foundation, Geneva, Professor of Theological Ethics at Basel University, Emeritus, and visiting professor at universities in Nigeria, China, Russia, UK. President of the Geneva Agape Foundation. He also committed to online publishing for free download and print copies for sale. Over 180 of his publications, books, and mainly articles can be downloaded for free from globalethics.net online library. Allow me to read several latest articles from Professor Zuckelberger. First one, Global Lens, Balanced Company Values in Uncertain Times, Director Today, Institute of Directors, India, January 2023. Second, opening presentation, Building New Bridge Together Conference, October 22. The Tricky Triangle, Ethics, Law and Relations, Trust, Legality, and Exceptionalism, globalethics.net, China Ethics, Geneva 2022. I think that's all from Professor Zuckelberger, and also this is our reference Mariska Lauterbach PhD. She is our lecturer in Faculty of Theology, Ketua Program Studi FAP kita. Ya, tepuk tangannya mari untuk. Okay, so Professor, you have 30 minutes for your presentation, and allow me to remind you in 5 minutes left. And also, please.
Thank you very much. I have a presentation, so maybe I stand and do you have a pointer or not? Okay.
You say next.
I take my laptop to see it. You may give me 5 or 10 minutes more, because otherwise it would be only 15 minutes, because we need the translation. Yeah. Philosophy of science, or science of philosophy, is an interesting combination.
Science of philosophy adalah sebuah kombinasi yang menarik.
The focus here is today on, as you see soon, on cyber society.
Fokus pada pertemuan kita hari ini adalah pada cyber society.
Means we are living in a world where we see each other physically, but we are also connected through internet, through the so-called cyber world.
Topik ini menarik karena pada waktu yang bersamaan kita terhubung secara langsung, secara fisik, kita saling melihat, tetapi juga pada waktu yang bersamaan kita terhubung secara virtual. Orang-orang yang tidak ada di sini.
Sorry, I restart because of what presentation that I had just. Yeah. The question of inclusive education in a cyber society is quite a new topic for many.
Topik pendidikan yang inklusif dalam cyber society merupakan pembahasan yang baru.
For example, you have a thesis on disabilities. Disabilities, if somebody is walking in the room with a disability on a wheelchair, that is the physical world.
Kita bayangkan seseorang dengan sebuah kekurangan fisik masuk ke ruangan ini, itu adalah contoh dunia fisik.
But if you are on internet, what is the question of inclusivity with people on disability? That's one of the questions of inclusive education in cyber society.
Tapi waktu kita membahas kekurangan fisik di dunia internet, kita mempunyai pertanyaan baru. Sebetulnya apa yang dimaksud dengan kekurangan fisik? Nah,
He cannot make person.
I continue, but I will come back to some of the slides. So I published several books or edited several books on the topic of cyber ethics.
saya sudah menulis beberapa buku dan juga mengedit beberapa buku dalam topik cyber ethics.
On data ethics,
Data ethics,
on AI, artificial intelligence ethics,
juga dalam ethics AI, artificial intelligence,
and I start with a few definitions.
dan saya akan memulai dari beberapa definisi dasarnya.
So what is ethics? Ethics offers orientation and benchmarks on the question what is good and bad. As simple as this. We have a decision to take. Is it what should we do to do the right decision or the wrong? That is ethics. To find orientation in these decisions.
Oke, yang pertama kita mulai dari pengertian dasar etika yang membuat kita mampu menjawab apakah sesuatu itu benar atau salah. Itu adalah dasarnya.
What is cyber society? A society which in almost all sectors influenced by the digital world.
Definisi cyber society adalah sebuah society di mana semua faktor terpengaruh oleh dunia digital.
What is then the cyber ethics? So ethics in a cyber society means we look at all these ethical aspects but related to the digital world.
Sedangkan waktu kita membahas apa itu cyber ethics, kita membahas etika yang terdapat dalam dunia virtual, dunia digital.
Now the data ethics, specialists tell me that the core of cyber is data.
Sedangkan pada waktu kita bicara cyber, kita tidak bisa lepas dari apa namanya data. Nah, data adalah jiwa atau pokok dari cyber.
So data ethics looks at the collection, the generation, analyzing, disseminating of data.
Sehingga yang
collecting, generating, analyzing, and disseminating data.
Sehingga data ethics atau etika data menyoroti hal-hal yang berupa berkaitan dengan pengumpulan data, lalu analisa data, sampai pada akhirnya bagaimana data itu disebarkan.
You all know the mobile phone, when you use it, you produce data. You have a voice, you have a text, and these data are used. They are not so interested in you and you and you, but they are interested, a student in philosophy, in law, in Salatiga, what is their interest, what are their questions, and they collect this data and transform it.
Seperti yang terjadi pada kita ya, dalam sehari-hari, kita menggunakan handphone kita menggunakan gawai kita. Di saat yang bersamaan, sistem mempelajari siapa kita, apa yang kita pelajari. Kita mengolah.
So whenever you click on a button, I agree, there is a question behind, an ethical question behind. You agree as to what? We all don't read the conditions, you just click, I agree, you know.
Scroll down, and
click, agree. So what is the content of what you agree? Is that ethical that they harvest this data, or is it not ethical?
kita perlu bertanya apakah pada waktu kita memutuskan untuk mengklik saya setuju atau I agree, kita sudah tahu pada konteks kontennya sebetulnya apa. Apakah kita sudah benar-benar membaca atau kita hanya scroll down sampai bawah lalu tekan ya saya setuju.
Disseminate and analyze means, for example, in Salatiga we get many people who search for this and this term. And then they know you are female or you are male. You get an advert based on your data, an advert for not only a nice shirt, but maybe an advert for a book, maybe an advert for whatever, based on the analysis of your data.
Konsekuensi dari keputusan kita untuk menyetujui akan sampai mana-mana. Iklan yang personalized misalnya. Beberapa saat kemudian iklan akan masuk sesuai dengan siapa kita, sesuai dengan tempat tinggal kita. Semuanya personalized.
Now, what is artificial intelligence?
Apakah AI itu?
The capability of computer systems or algorithms to imitate intelligent human behavior.
AI sendiri didefinisikan sebagai algoritma yang didesain untuk mampu menirukan perilaku manusia cerdas.
So if you use ChatGPT, who uses ChatGPT or something similar?
Siapa yang menggunakan ChatGPT atau semacamnya?
Raise your hand. Everyone. Okay. So ChatGPT is an AI-related device.
ChatGPT adalah tentunya alat yang berbasis AI.
It uses huge number of data from all over the world and then translates it into a meaningful text.
Dia menggunakan data yang dia peroleh dari seluruh dunia untuk menjadikan konten yang.
But ChatGPT is not as objective as you may think. You think, oh, that's the truth.
Tapi yang perlu diingat adalah ChatGPT tidak selalu objektif. Meskipun kita berpikir bahwa yang kita baca adalah sesuatu yang benar.
So the basis of ChatGPT are data.
Jadi yang perlu ditekankan basis dari ChatGPT adalah data.
So I'm sure they integrate a lot of Bahasa Indonesia data, but what about Javanese?
Jadi mereka sudah menggunakan bermacam-macam istilah bahasa Indonesia sebagai data mereka. Tapi bagaimana dengan bahasa Jawa?
We just came back from a village in the mountain here. Their language may be not recognized because it's too short. I need a few minutes more. So this is an example that the community here may be not reflected because their language is not in the internet, is not data.
Bahasa yang digunakan oleh penduduk di sebuah desa di pegunungan mungkin belum dikenali oleh ChatGPT, sehingga mereka belum terwakili.
I leave the rest of the definitions and I'll come to the next slide.
Oke, slide berikutnya akan menjelaskan.
So, what are now the values when we talk about ethics? What are the benchmarks? What is good in ChatGPT? What is not good in ChatGPT? As an example.
Jadi halaman ini kita akan coba belajar sebetulnya untuk menentukan apa yang benar dan apa yang salah.
And there, one of the values is inclusiveness with the blue line.
Dan satu poin yang akan kita bahas adalah inklusivitas.
So, for example, responsibility means how can we use ChatGPT in a responsible way?
Bagaimana kita dapat menggunakan ChatGPT dengan bertanggung jawab?
But ChatGPT is also used by the thieves and the criminals in the internet.
Sedangkan pada saat bersamaan ChatGPT juga digunakan oleh orang jahat.
So they want to steal data or they want to press you. You get a message. If you don't send me $100, I will delete all your content on your mobile phone.
Contohnya orang jahat menggunakan ChatGPT untuk memeras.
So, irresponsible use and responsible use.
Ada penggunaan yang baik dan yang tidak.
So inclusiveness is now the inclusive education is the topic of today.
Dan yang inklusif merupakan topik kita hari ini.
I don't go into details of this slide, but Erin, she will make it available for you so you can go through it, think about it, and digest it, and read it again next day.
Detail dari slide hari ini akan dikirimkan oleh Ibu Den supaya bisa dijadikan bacaan pengantar tidur.
Next one. Next one. So that is the same because I say that these different values are related to each other. They are not isolated stars somewhere in the universe.
Sedangkan nilai-nilai yang terpampang di slide halaman ini, mereka semuanya saling berhubungan.
Harmony is a key value here in Indonesia, I know, and Japanese culture.
Harmoni adalah sesuatu yang sangat kita junjung tinggi ya di nilai kebudayaan Jawa.
So let us take the example of freedom. You see here freedom.
Kita lihat di poin freedom.
So you're young people, you want some freedom. You also want to have freedom on the search in the internet, for example.
Kita semua menginginkan kebebasan dimanapun.
But then how is it related to security? You also want security. You want to be protected from hackers.
Di saat yang bersamaan, pada waktu kita ingin kebebasan, kita juga ingin security, rasa aman.
So the state may say, in order to give you more security, I limit your freedom. You cannot do everything what you want, because then you have no security.
Sehingga terjadi negosiasi supaya kita merasa aman, kita akan membatasi kebebasan Anda.
Or the opposite, you have a lot of security controlled by the state, but you don't have any freedom. Then you say, no, but I leave Indonesia or leave China. I was teaching one month in China, and people complain, I don't have enough freedom. I cannot use ChatGPT. I can only use the Chinese software programs. So this is the balance that we have to find.
Ada contoh lain yang berbeda dari yang pertama, yaitu kita mendapatkan rasa aman tapi kehilangan kebebasan.
Next one. So now we need to regulate the cyber society.
Sekarang kita mencoba mencari keseimbangan di cyber society.
The ChatGPT is only 2 years old. End of 2022, it came to the market.
ChatGPT kalau kita ingat usianya baru kurang lebih 2 tahun.
But now all the governments are crying and say, but what does it happen now? Google and Amazon and all the giants, they take and mix the data in the world. Are you allowed to do that?
Tapi ChatGPT sudah menjadi bahan pembicaraan yang hangat di banyak negara yang berhubungan dengan pengumpulan data tadi.
So that's what we call now AI governance.
Sehingga sekarang kita sebut sebagai AI governance.
So the countries are in hurry now to say, oh, we need now legislation.
Yang membuat negara berpikir bahwa kita memerlukan peraturan yang spesifik tentang penggunaan AI.
And 1 month ago, I published, I edited together with others a book, AI Governance Ethics, Artificial Intelligence with Shared Values and Rules.
Okay. Ini adalah buku yang saya terbitkan bulan lalu tentang ethics AI dan with shared values and rules.
And I have only one copy here, but As a gift, you all can download it for free. Go to globeethics.net/publications and you have the book this afternoon. But I pass it so that you can just quickly have a look at it.
Teman-teman semua bertepuk tangan dan sudah tahu maksudnya apa. Bisa di-download secara gratis.
In marketing, it's called a teaser. But now that is a big issue, also here in Indonesia. You know, you are intelligent people, you are students. What is the regulation of Indonesia on AI in future? Because the giants, US and China and Europe, they already developed their regulation.
Teman-teman, sebagai orang pintar, kira-kira bisa membayangkan nggak policy AI di masa depan seperti apa? Karena hal itu sudah menjadi bahan pembicaraan di negara-negara lain.
So I count on you that in future you will think what is the interest from an Indonesian perspective. How should it be regulated or not regulated? Are we just copy-pasting the Chinese solution or the US solution, or do we have an ASEAN solution or an Indonesian solution?
Sehingga di masa depan kita perlu adanya policy tentang AI yang unik, yang tidak hanya copy and paste dari negara lain. Apakah itu di level ASEAN atau bahkan di level Indonesia sendiri.
Next. Now coming to inclusive education.
Tiba di pembahasan pendidikan yang inklusif.
First, apart from cyber society in general, UNESCO, the United Nations Education and Science Program, has a lot of good documents on inclusive education.
UNESCO sendiri sebetulnya sudah mempunyai dokumen yang sangat kuat mengenai pendidikan inklusif.
And once you get these slides, you can click on these different links. I copied it from the website of UNESCO.
Slide yang nanti akan didapat teman-teman bisa diklik link yang ada.
And you see even more in different languages. And then there is an organization called Inclusion International. Maybe for your thesis it may be interesting. Disabilities.
Dan akan didapat sumber mengenai inclusive education dari slide yang akan diterima nanti.
Next one. Now, what is inclusive education in cyber society?
Apakah itu yang dimaksud dengan pendidikan inklusif di cyber society?
And the core is how to serve people.
Tujuan utamanya adalah bagaimana kita dapat melayani manusia.
So the ethical perspective is not just first, how can I help Google to make more money?
Pertanyaannya bukan hanya bagaimana kita bisa menghasilkan lebih banyak uang,
but how can Google and how can I as a user help to serve people for their needs?
tapi bagaimana dengan menggunakan Google kita bisa melayani lebih banyak lagi.
For example, in health science, for operations, AI and the digital world is very helpful, can be very helpful.
Contohnya di bidang kesehatan dengan penggunaan AI yang sangat membantu.
You can have a medical doctor here in Salatiga, and with e-surgery, he can help in a health center in a rural area for some treatments. He must not go there physically. He may be able through internet to help in medical issues.
Dengan penggunaan teknologi bisa saja seorang dokter membantu pasiennya yang berada di luar Salatiga tanpa harus pergi ke tempat tersebut.
For religions, for digital services, many worship on Sunday. You can now follow on the internet. So you see there also the advantage and disadvantage.
Dengan penggunaan teknologi kita juga dapat menghadiri bagian tanpa harus datang ke gereja.
And all the other sectors, including the red one, serving humans in media, education, communication.
Termasuk di dalamnya pelayanan dalam bidang media, pendidikan, dan komunikasi tentunya.
Now, we can distinguish several topics. Inclusive education in cyber society by target group.
Oke, kita dapat membagi pembahasan mengenai pendidikan inklusif berdasarkan kelompok yang menjadi target kita.
I take again your thesis. I mean, disabilities. Do you think of children with disabilities, of adult people, teenagers, or in general?
Contohnya kita bisa membuat pembahasan tentang disabilitas yang lebih spesifik, apakah ada anak-anak, remaja, atau bahkan dewasa.
Minorities, migrants, families, old persons.
Kan lebih banyak kelompok yang lain, kaum minoritas, dan juga kaum usia lanjut.
And you can fill in the form yourself now. You can say, okay, what are the challenges? For example, older people, what are the challenges in using cyber world? Huh? If I'm forced, I'm still cyber interested. But some people in age, if they are forced to do online banking only, they cannot go to the bank and get some money. They have to online banking. Oh, online banking, I forgot my password. I don't know how to log in. You know, it's a challenge of inclusive or exclusive. We can exclude older people sometimes.
Setelah kita mengidentifikasi kelompok target kita, kita bisa mengetahui tantangan apa yang mereka hadapi secara lebih spesifik.
Next one. We can also distinguish by topics. What are the topics of inclusive education in cyber society?
Selain itu, kita bisa mengelompokkan juga berdasarkan topik.
For example, accessibility to internet.
Contohnya akses ke koneksi internet.
I mean, you are privileged here. You have access day and night, I guess, for affordable costs or for free.
Kita di sini sangat bersyukur karena bisa mengakses internet.
Is it affordable or is it too expensive? Okay, how much is it that you have to spend on internet connectivity?
For 1 month, and 1,000 over 1,000.
100,000, yeah.
$9.
Yeah. Per month.
For
1 month.
so maybe that's only 20 days. 2 days.
Well, you see, so affordability, the second, is an issue. So even among you, and you are not the poor people in the street, even for you, affordability is a topic. So inclusive can mean if it's too expensive, some of you are already excluded. You can afford 22 days, and the last 10 days of the month, how to deal with it, you know.
Dari contoh tersebut kita bisa melihat bahwa kemampuan membeli menjadi isu bagi sebagian orang.
Accountability. You are accountable for what you download or use or share.
Oke. Sedangkan poin accountability, kita mempunyai kebebasan untuk membagikan apa yang kita mau bagikan di internet.
It's so easy. Nowadays, you have Facebook, you get a news, you say, oh, that's interesting, I forward it to my friend.
Dengan Facebook dan juga media sosial lainnya, kita memperoleh kemudahan untuk membagikan apapun yang ingin kita bagikan.
You don't control it, and then your friend sends you back. Did you understand that is a fake news? It's not true.
Pada waktu kita menerima berita dari teman misalkan, kadang kita tidak bisa mengontrol apakah itu benar atau tidak palsu.
So you have a responsibility or accountability what you forward to others to check as far as you can do I want to really share it with others? Or let's think twice before I share something.
Sehingga
That's an ethical responsibility you have.
sehingga itu membawa kita ke sebuah pertanyaan etikal, apakah kita semestinya menyebarkan sebuah konten.
I don't read all of this. You can go through it later, or we do it in the discussion. Next one. Now, an economic issue, you know, philosophy and ethics and economy and politics are linked.
Oke, pembahasan ini terkait secara ekonomi, secara politik, secara sosial.
Now, what are the media that we use in the cyber society?
Media apa yang kita gunakan di cyber society?
We will all use a lot of what we call social media. The Facebook, the whatever devices you use.
Kita melewatkan banyak waktu di media sosial.
We have the oral media. I talk to you without, I use also the PPT, but that is another way of communicating.
Cara lain untuk berkomunikasi adalah seperti ini, media oral secara langsung.
And the classical media, TV, radio, and so on. And then the key question is media owners.
Pertanyaan kuncinya sebetulnya adalah siapa yang memiliki media tersebut.
So I invite you for inclusive education to analyze who is the owner of the media that you use.
Sehingga kita perlu mengetahui siapa pemilik media yang kita gunakan.
Because these media owners are normally not philanthropists. These are hardcore business.
Karena pemilik media yang kita gunakan sebenarnya adalah orang bisnis atau pelaku bisnis.
They offer you something often for free, but they want something from you.
Mereka memberikan sesuatu secara cuma-cuma karena mereka ingin mendapatkan sesuatu.
And then the political question, media control. Who controls the media? The Indonesian government, the Chinese government, the European Union, company.
Pertanyaan berikutnya adalah tentang media control. Siapa yang mengendalikan media-media tersebut?
And you can do that next on a table. I don't go into it, but if you compare the different systems, you see that you're in a specific system. You are mainly linked to media from the US. But if you are in China, most of that you cannot use. You have a parallel system. I have for all the devices too. I have WhatsApp, I have WeChat, is the Chinese WhatsApp, and so on and so on. So you need to know in which world you are consuming this digital society or world.
Penting bagi kita untuk mengetahui hal ini supaya kita bisa tahu sebetulnya siapa yang mengontrol penggunaan kita.
It's just to you are intelligent, you have the capacity to analyze. Use this analytical capacity.
Kita perlu mulai berpikir kritis.
That means we always think, oh, that's the objective worldview that we see. And you're not aware that, for example, you have a Western perspective, or you have an Asian perspective, or you have a limited perspective anyway.
Sehingga kita bisa tahu sebetulnya perspektif mana yang kita gunakan selama.
I use since about 2 years. I have about 4 newspapers that I read regularly, daily.
Saya membaca 4 surat kabar.
So I read a Swiss newspaper, Hong Kong newspaper, an African newspaper, and American newspaper.
Saya membaca surat kabar Swiss, Hong Kong, American, dan Afrika.
Yes. Now the last slide I want to share is an important one This is for 5.2. Yes. You may be once in a situation where you have something in the internet and you want to delete it, or you want that it's forgotten. Maybe you had a clash with a boyfriend or a girlfriend and you put it on the Facebook. I don't want to be remembered, and it's not good. And when you apply for a job, the job offer can go and see what you have on Facebook, and then they say, oh sorry, I want to delete it.
Kalanya kita ingin menghapus jejak digital kita, semisal ada yang pernah bertengkar dengan kasihnya, sehingga pada waktu mau melamar kerja, mau disembunyikan, mau dihapus.
I'm serious, it's sometimes really be careful what you put on the internet, because 5 years later it's still in the internet, and you cannot delete it. Even if you delete your Facebook account, it may be still some on another page.
Contoh itu sebuah pengingat bagi kita untuk berhati-hati pada waktu kita bermain internet, karena jejak digital masih akan bertahan selama yang dia sebut 5 tahun. Setelah itu bahkan lebih, bahkan pada waktu kita menghapus akun kita, kemungkinan masih akan muncul di platform lain.
So that's why I say we have the right to forget and the right to be forgotten or deleted.
Dan itu mengingatkan bahwa kita mempunyai hak untuk dilupakan, hak untuk dihapus kontennya maksudnya.
You know, our human brain is genius because our human brain is able to forget.
Otak kita merupakan sesuatu yang sangat jenius karena otak kita mampu melupakan.
We often suffer from that because we think, oh, I forgot. But it's also good. We filter by priority. Maybe it's not so important to keep everything on the same level present. We got crazy if you don't filter and wait.
Terkadang kita mengeluh pada waktu kita lupa sesuatu. Padahal sebenarnya itu merupakan sebuah mekanisme untuk filter supaya kita tidak harus mengingat semua.
But the internet does not filter. They just say what is in the internet is in the internet on the same level.
Hal yang berbeda dengan internet, yang ada di internet akan ada selamanya.
So the right to forget is one, and I'm coming to the end. 6.2. Next one, yes, becoming human. I would suggest you also one, has to do with ethics. That is, I call it internet fasting.
Hal yang berikutnya saya sebut sebagai internet fasting.
That means, you know, you are all the time, you're all the time there. And we need sometimes a break and say, today I close my mobile phone in the shelf, I don't use it for 1 day.
Karena hampir setiap waktu kita berhubungan dengan internet, ada baiknya kita juga beristirahat.
We need to breathe.
Oke, kita perlu mengambil nafas panjang atau menjauh sebentar dari internet.
And I say here in red, a kiss sent as an icon on WeChat is still not the same as a kiss face to face or lips to lips.
Ini sangat penting ya. Seberapapun banyak icon kiss yang kita kirimkan di chat application, tidak bisa dibandingkan dengan ciuman yang sesungguhnya.
And that is my last slide. We are in a Christian university. You know, we say God became human. So my last slide is, do it like God become human.
Oke, dan ringkasan dari sesi kali ini adalah do it like God, become human, artinya jadilah manusia yang yang seutuhnya. Oke.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Professor Stuckelberger, for the wonderful presentation. Next, Reverend Marisa.
No, it's okay.
So you're good.
Okay, and they can hear me like
all the time.
all the time. But you supposed to have like a lot of time. Okay, so I will present my ongoing research, and I will do it like in gado-gado, ya, bahasa Indonesia dan bahasa Inggris, ya. Is it okay with you?
Yes.
Semuanya sudah pada makan? Karena the body is as important as the mind, ya. Jadi semoga datang ke sini semuanya sudah pada makan. Okay, so the title of my presentation is An Inclusive Decolonial Education and Social Care Ethics in the Digital Age. Okay, so like I mentioned, ini masih ya, jadi ini masih penelitian yang tahap awal, ya, penelitian tahap awal. Jadi saya menggagas, mempropose tentang sebuah pendidikan inklusif dekolonial dan social care, etika sosial, kepedulian sosial di digital age. Ya. Okay, let me start my presentation by asking you about, if I ask you to describe education in one word, what will it be? Kata pendidikan, coba kalian deskripsikan dalam satu kata. Kira-kira apa yang akan kalian bilang? Apa itu pendidikan? Ya? What is education? Empowerment. Okay, thank you Pak Warto. Yang lain? Semua pendidikan kita sudah dididik sejak bahkan dalam kandungan, kan, ya, sampai saat ini, ya kan? So it's like long history of education. So how do we understand education? Empowerment, Pak Warto. Ada lagi yang lain? Satu kata saja, just one word. Ganda. Tiga kata. Arahan, ya. Jadi ada tiga kata tadi, ajaran, arahan, kekuatan, tapi dia arahan. Oke, yang perempuan? Ada? Satu orang?
Tahu.
Apa?
Mencari tahu.
Menjadi tahu. Oke, menjadi tahu. Ya. Jadi pertanyaan penting sebenarnya, what is education and how is this significant, ya, sebelum kita berbicara lebih jauh tentang inclusive decolonial education, maka pertanyaan tentang apa itu pendidikan dan mengapa itu signifikan, I think is very important. So I quote several scholars. Yang pertama yaitu ada di sini, ya, ada di sini Ki Hajar Dewantoro. Ki Hajar Dewantoro mengatakan pendidikan dan pengajaran merupakan usaha persiapan dan persediaan untuk segala kepentingan hidup manusia, baik dalam hidup bermasyarakat maupun hidup berbudaya dalam arti yang seluas-luasnya. Ya, so education and instruction is like preparation, and also like persediaan, ya. Yeah, for all human affairs, ya, in a sense in the society, but also Ki Hajar Dewantoro menekankan tentang how to become manusia yang berbudaya, ya. Jadi bagaimana menjadi manusia yang berbudaya itu ada di situ. Terus my next quotations is from Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire ini terkenal dengan idenya tentang pedagogy of the oppressed, ya, or liberation pedagogy. Paulo Freire mengatakan education does not change the world. Education changes people. People change the world. Yeah. And then another one is from John Dewey. John Dewey mengatakan education is a social process. Education is growth. Education is not a preparation for life, but is life itself. Jadi pendidikan itu adalah proses sosial. Pendidikan itu adalah pertumbuhan. Pendidikan bukan persiapan, tapi John Dewey bilang pendidikan adalah kehidupan itu sendiri, the life itself. And it is unfair for me if I only quote from men, so I also quote from two women from Indonesia. Ada di sini juga Raden Ajeng Kartini, ya, dan Maria Walanda Maramis. I don't know it's here or not, tapi kayaknya tidak ada. Ya, kita punya Dewi Sartika di sana, dan kita punya Raden Ajeng Kartini, ya kan? Nah, bagi Kartini dan bagi Maria Walanda Maramis, pendidikan for women is something important. Ya, jadi education supposed to value yang ada dalam education supposed to be adil gender, ya, bahwa perempuan pun juga berhak mendapatkan pendidikan selayaknya laki-laki. Okay, so from this understanding, we can see that education is very significant. Ya, jadi pendidikan itu penting. Setuju? Setuju. Ya, makanya kita di sini. Karena bagi kita pendidikan itu penting. But unfortunately, pendidikan menjadi identik dengan apa saat ini? Pendidikan menjadi identik dengan uang, okay, with money, ya, commodification of education, ya kan? What else? Pendidikan? Oh, in a positive way, ya, learning, ya. But if we have to critique education, ya, commodification of education, right? And we see pendidikan itu menjadi identik dengan apa? Gelar, ya kan? Padahal the basic meaning of education, educere, to lead out the best in you, your potential within you, to lead out that. Ya, jadi you have something already. Kalian tidak datang di sekolah karena kalian bodoh, no, because you are smart in your own way, right? And the teacher, anak-anak hidup dan tumbuh sesuai kodratnya sendiri. Pendidik hanya dapat merawat dan menuntun tumbuhnya kodrat itu. Ya, jadi memfasilitasi itu kata Ki Hajar Dewantoro. Jadi I think it's a very good choice of the room because we can also, see, ya, mereka ini yang ada di Kartini, Sartika, Ki Hajar Dewantoro, they really believe in education. Yeah. Okay, so the current phase of Indonesian education, yeah, of course we have like positive side, but let me show you the negative side of Indonesian education. Next slide. You see, this is from Surat Kabar, Kompas.id. Indonesia still faces education quality challenges. For 2 decades, Indonesia has continued to struggle to get out of the stagnant quality of basic student learning. Ya, jadi judulnya itu. Judulnya ternyata Indonesia masih berhadapan dengan tantangan kualitas pendidikan. Ya, kita bersyukur kita punya ruangan yang seperti ini. Ya kan, kita dengan fasilitas yang canggih, tetapi in some part of Indonesia, not as lucky as us here. Yeah, next slide. This is from a journal by Agariatne Dwinggo Samala and friends. They mentioned about the challenges in Indonesian education. There are 12. Ya, jadi curriculum development, teacher quality, corruption, inequality education, lack of collaboration, disparities, inadequate infrastructure, dropout rates and early marriage, vocational educational issues, poor education management, political policies, credibility of accreditation. Ya, jadi ini semua tantangan, 12 tantangan yang disebutkan di dalam tulisan mereka. Teman-teman bisa baca karena it's very interesting, ya. Saya cuman hanya ambil sebagian saja, tapi kalau kalian mau baca di situ, it's very interesting result, ya, dari penelitian mereka. Next slide. Nah, kira-kira gambar di atas, what does it mean? Yang di sana, kira-kira apa sih di gambar itu? What does it mean? Ada? Ayo apa? Ayo. Fanny.
Yang mendapatkan nilai yang baik.
Ya, yang mendapatkan nilai yang baik. Ya, sistem penilaian tuh somehow juga diskriminasi. Ya kan? Karena tadi akhirnya orang ke sekolah cuma untuk apa? ranking. Kalau ranking kamu pintar, tapi kalau tidak ranking, oh sudah apa kata habis dari mama, bodoh, anak bodoh misalnya, right? So karena masih fokus pada angka. Padahal apakah angka itu can represent you? I don't think so, right? Apakah tesnya can represent you? I don't think so. Karena Howard Gardner says they are multiple intelligences, right? 9 kecerdasan majemuk. But in our educational system, tidak semuanya itu diukur. Sehingga kalau matematikanya 5, terus olahraganya keren, kalian dibilang bodoh atau pintar? Bodoh. Ya kan? Kalau kalian jago main musik, jago nyanyi, tapi IPA-nya 0, kalian dibilang pintar atau bodoh? Bodoh. Ya, jadi ada bias, you know, in our educational system. Okay, and of course, when we talk about our educational system, cannot be separated from the long history of colonialism. Yeah, this is the long history of colonialism, and also this is probably you feeling burned out, stressful because of education. Ya kan? Ada yang mungkin, you know, ending up killing himself or herself just cannot cope with banyaknya tugas, banyaknya homework and so on. Okay, next slide. This one is the banking system of education. Ya, dimana guru di sana, profesor di sana pakai buku terus, you know. Jadi kita nih kayak kontainer kosong, empty a container, and the teacher is a depositor who deposit everything, ya, into our mind. Okay, next slide. Ini juga sama ya, jadi banking system education yang A banking system, kalau yang B ini yang liberation pedagogy. Ya, teman-teman nanti bisa lihat. Next. Nah ini, you see? Apa yang kalian lihat di gambar ini? What do you see in this picture?
Perbedaan.
Ya, jadi ada yang maju, ini race. We imagine that our education is a race. Yang poor sana, yang untuk beli sepatu, beli tas aja nggak bisa misalnya, terus terikat dengan apa? Poverty, kemiskinan. Ya, yang di depan ya, yang privilege, ya kan, yang punya uang. Karena $9 is for some people is a lot of money. Ya kan, 100.000 it's a lot of money. Internet connection yang good quality is a lot of money. Ya, akhirnya subscription mahal. ChatGPT kalau yang lebih bagus, you have to pay premium. Ya kan, you have to pay, so it's expensive. So those with money, they will win the race. Yeah, so this is the face of our current educational system. Next. So, based on this, my proposal is there is a need of an inclusive decolonial education in digital age or in cyber global society. Ya, jadi ada kebutuhan ya pendidikan yang inklusif dan dekolonial, inklusif dan membebaskan. Ya, bukan cuma hanya sekedar inklusif, but I add decolonial. Ya, karena ternyata ketika kita berbicara tentang our current world, we are facing neo-colonialism, right? Ketika kita berbicara tentang cyber world, tadi sudah dijelaskan oleh Profesor Zuckerberg, we are dealing with who holds the power, who controls the media, yang punya uang, kapital, kapitalisme, ya kan? Sehingga decolonial effort is needed. Okay, next slide. Next slide. This is we are in a cyber society. There is a digital aspect of virtual dimension everywhere, as mentioned by Professor Zuckerberg. You can see big data, AI-driven personalization, and so on. Yeah, media become the second god, as Tony Schwartz argue. Ya, media menjadi Tuhan kedua. Ya kan, karena apa semua yang keluar di media kita percaya itu adalah benar. Ya, next slide. Oke, impacts on education, teman-teman bisa lihat di sini ada positive impacts, yang di sini adalah negative impact ya. Jadi mempertajam kesenjangan sosial ya, we are talking about inequality, capitalism, neocolonialism, reduce face-to-face interaction, decrease attention span and focus while engaging in educational activities. Karena sudah biasanya di muka laptop, ketika educational activities without laptop, kayaknya cepat bosan. Tapi kalau kita di Facebook 2 jam kita nggak bosan, kita surfing 5 jam nggak terasa, Mobile Legend 5 jam nggak terasa, right? Okay, so online harassment and cyberbullying, reduce physical activity, overload information, dependency on technology, and so on. Next. Okay, so these are the questions. Ya, jadi teman-teman mungkin nanti kita setelah ini kalau ada yang mau bertanya bisa ya, bisa lebih memperdalam, tapi because we have very limited time, moderator nih suruh cepat selesai. Ya. Jadi pertanyaannya, how are identities challenged? Who holds power? Whose voices are not heard? Where is God in the midst of the cyber world, right? Who is God? Right? What is the role of artificial intelligence? How can AI and data be utilized in education? How do we educate for knowledge, wisdom, and values? Ya, jadi bukan cuma knowledge aja. Kita education also for wisdom, ya, values. Okay, can everybody access equally to education? Is it possible to have an inclusive decolonial education in a cyber world? These are the questions, yeah, important questions that I think we need to reflect upon as we are talking about inclusive decolonial education. Next slide. Yeah. When we talk about an inclusive decolonial education, teman-teman bisa lihat di sini ada kata-kata kunci ya. Everyone has equal access. Terus ada quality education. Ini pas bagian dari SDG ya. Quality education, gender equality ya. Jadi equality, justice, and liberation is important. Terus it is possible to have inclusive education when justice and equality exist. Ya, jadi inclusive education should be a decolonial education. Okay, so in this regard, there is a need of what I propose as like social care ethics. Social care ethics. Next slide. I try to combine the ethics, social ethics from tokoh ethics namanya Miguel de la Torre, ya, from Latin America, Miguel de la Torre. Next slide aja. I only have 5 minutes. Next slide. Ya, jadi ini Miguel de la Torre. But next ya. Ini hermeneutic circle from Miguel de la Torre. Jadi observing, reflecting, mediating, acting sampai di assessing. To have a new ethical perspective, right? And then I combine with ethics of care, Carol Gilligan. Ya, jadi bahwa harus ada etika kepedulian. We need to care gitu. Care bukan cuman just care aja on like, love, tapi care adalah willingness to do something. Karena kita berbicara sekarang cyber world, kita berbicara tentang kapitalisme. Kita berbicara tentang neokolonialisme, kita ditindas, dijajah dalam pendidikan. Pendidikan itu menindas, mengungkung, ya kan? Tidak ada equal access. Jadi memang di sini semua orang harus bekerja bersama, pemerintah, terus kemudian yang punya modal, ya kan? Terus all of us, oppressor and oppressed need to be realized, ya. Jadi harus sadar, konsientisasi itu, conscientizations, you know, is both for the oppressed and the oppressor. Jadi yang menindas dan yang ditindas itu harus sadar. Jadi care yang saya pakai dari Carol Gilligan itu dia harus care yang, you know, memang basically Carol Gilligan ini kan talking about like bias gender when we deal with ethics. Right? Jadi etika kepedulian itu ya, we talk about, you know, adil gender, we talk about bagaimana peduli bukan cuman on level di kata saja, tapi to do something, ya, karena kita melihat bahwa inequality also caused by ketidakadilan sistemik, ketidakadilan struktur, dan bagaimana peduli, bagaimana kepedulian kita. Next slide, ya. Ini and then also with local social care ethics yang kemarin kalau teman-teman ikuti presentasinya Kak Caken ya Kadekan talk about click ethics ya click ethics ya yang juga memanfaatkan local based ya jadi cultural based ethics ya seperti Tepa Seliro peduli ya ale rasa beta rasa torang semua basudara potong di kuku rasa di daging Tito, Timo, Tumoto. Professor Zuckerberger, this Tito, Timo, Tumoto is a local wisdom from North Sulawesi about humanizing human. Okay, so I think it's related to what your conclusion. Tito, Timo, Tumoto. Ada value, local value yang bisa digunakan also sebagai dasar dari etika kepedulian sosial yang kita bangun untuk digital world. Ya, terus ada piala gandong, ada gotong royong. Next slide. And we have these key values. Yeah, not only key principles, tetapi key values: accessibility, equality, equity, justice and liberation, social inclusion and social justice, participation, not only participation but collaboration, support for different learning needs, learning styles, caring one another, mutual recognition, empathy and solidarity. These supposed to be key values in inclusive decolonial education. Next slide, last one. Okay, and inclusive decolonial education is essential for creating a world where every student has the opportunity to succeed and thrive, regardless of their background and or abilities. It is a space where equality, justice, and liberation are inherent in education. Education is to engage in society transforming praxis and to dismantle racism, sexism, classist power structures. Resistance is needed. Caring for others is needed. So decolonizing can be said an ethical principle in inclusive education. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, big thanks to our speakers for their valuable insights. Now we're opening the Q&A session. Want to ask, you guys can raise your hand. And it's better to Professor and Ambassador. Thank you. Ya, teman-teman disilakan untuk. Oke. Kita hanya akan buka satu sesi untuk semua penanya. Silakan untuk angkat tangan. Mari teman-teman, kita sudah ada satu di bagian sini. 2 di bagian sini, thank you. 3, 4, 5, oke, 5 ya, cukup. Oke, pertanyaannya silakan diajukan dan akan dijawab sekaligus oleh kedua pembicara kita. Don't forget to introduce yourself. If you have a question in Bahasa Indonesia, we have interpreters, so don't worry. Okay, please, first one. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. As the time that me. So, my name is Peter Ronaldo. You can call me Peter. And so, what is the question is, what is the impact of our concept when we use internet on our mental and physical health? For example, when I'm retired or doing the coursework, I will entertain myself by watching Korean dramas and end up going overboard. So what is the impact and how can concepts such as like testing help us create a better balance in our digital life? Thank you, that's my question.
So in here, in here we have 3 persons, please. Silakan.
Menjadi pertanyaan saya, apa aspek atau upaya yang dilakukan untuk ini mengenali baik buruknya suatu data yang disajikan oleh perkembangan ilmu teknologi?
mengenali baik buruknya data?
Baik, perkenalkan nama saya Muhammad Martam. Saya ingin bertanya sama Mariska tentang pendidikan. Seperti yang kita lihat sekarang itu pendidikan di Indonesia saya rasa sudah berkurang. Saya pernah melihat di sebuah konten di mana ada seseorang mempertanyakan apa kepanjangan MPR. Orang itu tidak tahu. Bagaimana Ibu menanggapi hal tersebut? Dan juga tentang kurikulum merdeka yang sekarang, apakah menurut Ibu itu sebuah kemajuan atau sebuah penurunan pendidikan yang ada di Indonesia?
Last one. Ya.
Pertanyaan kepada tentang bagaimana proses ini dapat bantu dalam mengawasi praktik kita di dunia.
Can you repeat again your question out loud?
Bagaimana proses koordinasi
Governance AI.
ini dapat membantu dalam mengatur dan mengawasi praktik etika di dunia.
Nama saya Purwanto dari 3 kelasnya dia. Pertanyaan saya tadi disampaikan oleh Profesor begitu jelas arahnya itu kemana, dan yang ingin saya tuju justru arahnya itu bahwa manusia itu jadilah manusia yang seutuhnya. Ini dari pembicaraan tadi ke situ. Nah, saya ingin tanya, dalam rangka menuju manusia yang seutuhnya itu, era digital yang seperti sekarang ini, kita kan perlu tatanan, perlu sebuah aturan, perlu sebuah kayak prosedur dalam sebuah pekerjaan begitu. Bagaimanakah kita sebagai ahli-ahli dalam dunia cyber seperti ini untuk menata sebuah etika di mana kita akan dijadikan sebuah manusia yang seutuhnya?
Okay, after that, please. To introduce myself, my name is Dewa Boymau, NIM 712014. Sorry, my English is not good, but I want to try it. Thank you for the opportunity. I have a question for Professor. A little story. When I open YouTube, I look for Adobe Box, and then days, even month, I don't open YouTube again. And when I open YouTube, it will definitely bring up beatbox videos. I think that YouTube seems like I already know what I like. Has YouTube been watching me all this time, Professor? How can you explain that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Shall I start? Okay, thank you so much for these questions. Really important questions and not easy to answer, but sometimes the question is as important as the answer, as you know.
Profesor akan mencoba menjawabnya meskipun tidak selalu mudah untuk dijawab.
Your first point on using impact of using internet.
Yang pertama tentang efek penggunaan internet.
It's not easy to answer in a few sentences, but
Jawabannya akan panjang.
very clear it's impacting us every day.
Tapi yang jelas pengguna internet sudah memiliki
and we all benefit. I mean, there's a huge progress, so we should not only see the negative side.
Kita perlu menyadari bahwa kita mendapatkan banyak keuntungan, sehingga kurang adil kalau kita terus-menerus melihat negatifnya.
You have access to a wealth of information that I did not have access as a student. You have 100,000 more information available.
Siswa saat ini mempunyai sumber informasi yang jauh lebih banyak dibanding yang pada waktu.
My challenge as a student was how can I get a book, how can I go to the library, and so on.
Tantangan profesor pada waktu itu adalah bagaimana mendapatkan buku tertentu.
Your challenge is how to select.
Sedangkan tantangan mahasiswa saat ini adalah
you're swimming in a sea, you know, and left or right, or should I dive, or I'm lost in the sea of swimming.
Seakan-akan sekarang kita tenggelam lautan informasi.
And that's where your own thinking is more important than ever.
Sehingga kemampuan kita berpikir secara kritis sekarang amat sangat penting.
Means, what do I want in my life and what do I need to know?
Sehingga pertanyaan pentingnya adalah sebetulnya apa yang kita inginkan dalam hidup.
And take every thesis that you write or every exam as a chance to select.
Kita perlu untuk terus menguji sebetulnya apa yang kita butuhkan.
As a professors, we often say to the students, nice topic, but too broad for a bachelor thesis or for a master thesis or a PhD. Please narrow down.
Saran yang kerap mereka berikan sebagai profesor adalah untuk menulis sesuatu yang lebih spesifik.
So that would be one recommendation on narrowing down in this sea of information.
Sehingga kita mempunyai satu PR untuk tahu secara spesifik apa yang kita cari.
The second is balancing internet and direct communication.
Kedua adalah menyeimbangkan penggunaan internet dengan komunikasi secara langsung.
So our children are all grown up, but having a meal with their parents or with your friends and say, we now eat without the mobile phone. But I see often in the restaurant, especially in China, you go to the restaurant, the parents go with the child to the restaurant, the child is eating and looking at the video. What is the meaning to go to eat with the parents if you are doing what you anyway do?
Contoh yang tidak seimbang adalah pada waktu keluarga pergi makan bersama, tetapi sambil makan mereka fokus pada gawe mereka sendiri.
If you have a boyfriend and your boyfriend, while you're talking to the boyfriend, is already looking here, I would be angry as a girlfriend. I said, is this more important than me? You know.
Demikian juga pada waktu kita berkencan, bukannya berinteraksi secara langsung, malah kita asik dengan handphone di sini.
Second point is, complicate, Irene, evaluation of the quality of data. That's very demanding nowadays. Who was it?
Itu pertanyaan sangat penting untuk menguji kualitas data.
One simple method is I would recommend you compare information.
Satu hal yang direkomendasikan adalah kita membandingkan sebanyak mungkin informasi.
That's what I say. Why I read every day 4 newspapers from 4 continents, because I don't want just the Swiss perspective of the world or the Indonesian one. I need to compare.
Itulah alasan kenapa beliau membaca 4 surat kabar dari 4 benua.
And the challenge of your generation, I think, is that data or analysis show that you are using most of the information from the social media.
Tantangan generasi saat ini adalah kita mendapatkan hampir semua informasi dari media sosial.
And social media are unfiltered, not journalistic normally, with all the quality criteria. It's just, you know, a lot of noise and a lot of dust in the social media.
Sedangkan konten yang di sosial media bukanlah produk jurnalistik.
So try to select what are the information sources you want to use. And then, of course, for fun, you can have Instagram or whatever. But that's for fun. But for information use, make an analysis. What is a reliable source of news that you want to consume?
Sehingga bedakan sumber informasi yang kita butuhkan untuk keperluan yang berbeda. Kalau untuk yang for fun, media sosial.
That's only part of the answer, because the other answer is more complicated. To analyze the quality of data, for those studying communication, it's a must. You need to develop methods of analyzing data behind the scene, and there are tools. For example, in election, one of our sons studied political science.
Contohnya yang beliau berikan baru dasarnya, karena kalau kita belajar komunikasi kita perlu menggunakan metode khusus untuk menguji kualitas data.
And he is specialized on analyzing election campaigns.
Dan dia contohnya sedang mengembangkan
election campaigns.
Okay.
Yeah. So political campaigns for elections.
Kampanye politik.
So tomorrow you have elections. Now you can with tools. There are tools to analyze. For example, which announcements or news are paid news, and which are serious, objective news. There are tools for that.
Contohnya besok akan ada pilkada. Ada tools yang bisa digunakan untuk mengecek apakah sebuah konten itu konten berbayar atau.
For example, Facebook, on pressure of some governments, now has a Facebook page, analytics or something, Facebook Analytics, where they have to show which adverts are, or which news are paid news from a political party. Then it's okay, but yeah, then I know, aha, that's a advert. That's not an objective article here.
Yang sudah dilakukan Facebook dengan memberi label pada berita yang merupakan berita berbayar, sehingga pembaca tahu apa tujuan dari.
And that's extremely important today, because we all know that election campaigns are heavily influenced not only by rich people who pay, but by governments. You know, the Russians interfere into the US elections, the US interferes into the Nigerian elections, and so on. Governments interfere into the elections of other countries without telling us.
Penting untuk kita tahu, karena pada saat ini pemerintah juga mengintervensi proses pemilihan di negara lain, contohnya di Rusia.
That has also to do with the third question, if I'm correct, so I answered already. Now the question of AI governance, how to use AI in education.
Mengenai AI governance di dalam bidang pendidikan.
So we are only at the beginning, and the development is so fast.
Kita masih ada di tahap awal. Dan perkembangannya sangat cepat saat ini.
We published the book in October, so a month ago.
Buku tersebut diterbitkan 1 bulan lalu.
And every month, new regulations are coming up and decided by governments.
Dan tiap bulan ada regulasi baru.
So I already decided we need the next book, maybe in 6 months, latest in 12 months.
Sehingga saya merasa pentingnya buku baru paling lama 1 tahun dari sekarang.
So you are running, you know, behind, running behind. But don't give up. You are sportive, huh? You can run fast. So run to catch what are the new developments.
Tentunya sebagai orang yang ada di bidang tersebut, kita bisa lari secepat mungkin untuk membuat policy yang relevan.
I cannot answer all the aspects of this question, but read, for example, chapter 15 and 16.
Di bab 15 dan 16,
UNESCO AI values and principles.
terdapat bacaan tentang UNESCO AI value.
15 pages, very good paper about how can we use AI in education.
Karena kita mendapatkan panduan untuk menggunakan AI.
And directly for you, chapter 16 here, UNESCO AI Competency Framework for Students.
Sedangkan di chapter 16 ada panduan UNESCO untuk penggunaan AI bagi mahasiswa.
So your students, what should you reflect when you use AI? Read these 10 pages only. Then you have the answer of your question. Who was the question came from?
Sehingga pertanyaannya tadi bisa dijawab dengan membaca chapter
Somewhere from this side. On AI experts, I recommend you to go to the so-called WSIS website, World Summit for the Information Society, WSIS. And they have a conference in Geneva, just 500 meters from my office in Geneva, once a year. AI for Good. AI for Good is the, you can also Google AI for Good, conference in Geneva.
Teman-teman bisa coba buka website WSIS. Mereka mengadakan conference AI
for Good.
AI for Good.
So there you find material, you know, on how AI experts deal with it. How can it be used for good and not for bad?
Nah, mereka berbicara tentang bagaimana penggunaan AI untuk kebaikan, hal yang bukan untuk kejahatan.
I was last May on a panel in Geneva during this conference.
Bulan Mei lalu di Jenewa.
And you don't believe it, beside me in this chair was a robot.
Dan yang duduk di sebelahnya adalah seorang robot.
And we call it humanoid robot. A nice lady like you, and charming lady, but a robot. And she discussed with us, imagine. The robot discussed. I asked questions. She was quite intelligent.
Dia berdiskusi dengan robot cantik yang juga pandai.
Of course, there was another person in the corner with a laptop who had to give some instructions.
Dan di sudut ruang ada seorang yang mengoperasikan robot tersebut, memberikan perintah untuknya.
And I discussed after the panel with a developer, a lady who was programming the robot.
Dan saya berbicara juga dengan pengembang robot tersebut.
And I said, yeah, but these answers were so good and nice and welcoming and all for the good.
Dan jawaban yang diberikan oleh robot sangat bagus.
She said, yes, that's how we program. She not needs to be nice. She wants to be the best, to the best for the humanity.
Mereka bilang karena mereka mendesain robot itu untuk sesuatu yang baik.
Yeah, but we are now reflecting on programming a robot for the bad.
Sayangnya ada juga yang memprogram robot untuk kebutuhan.
We want to know what could be the harm of a robot who is a nasty robot, a destructive robot.
kita sudah mulai waspada tentang kemungkinan buruk apa yang mungkin dilakukan oleh robot yang jahat tersebut.
On the YouTube question came from that side. From that side, sorry. Yeah, YouTube. You know, that's the thing, that whatever we do, the system knows. And that's the threatening thing. However you use YouTube, they use it for promotion, and that's why you get selective proposals, because they not only what you do, but they think, somebody from Indonesia, a student, a male, this age, this information they have. And then with AI, they generate your profile. You may be interested in young girls. You may be interested in this and that, you know, or you may be interested in technology or in philosophy because you are in the department of. So they have this information. And that is what we say, we then more and more are in bubbles.
Oke, perlu kita ingat bahwa apapun yang kita lakukan dengan kita direkam oleh sistem. Mereka akan tahu, mereka akan membuat profil kita berdasarkan asal kita, di mana usia kita, berapa, laki atau perempuan, lalu mereka akan menebak kira-kira kita suka apa, sehingga mereka bisa mengirimkan sesuatu yang sifatnya personal.
I think the answer is, don't just rely on what the system proposes you as your interest, potential interest, but use a search machine and search for things that the computer may not expect that you use for. Your computer here in your brain is still more important than the computer of Google. If you use this brain, and that is the conclusion for me to all these answers, sorry to be long, the conclusion is your critical thinking is your asset. Train your critical thinking, not just repeat what others think for you. Is it a machine or a professor? The more you think yourself, the better you can manage the digital world.
Sebuah pengingat supaya kita tidak hanya menerima apa yang diberikan sistem kepada kita, tapi kadang kita perlu mencari atau menggunakan secara berbeda gawai kita.
And I add one hint, maybe you can take a picture of that, towards digital education, cutting-edge perspectives on digital transformation. You can translate it.
Menuju pendidikan digital, perspektif baru mengenai transformasi digital.
And I received it from the Open University in China, in Shenzhen, South China. UNESCO has is part of it. UNESCO China, UNESCO Shenzhen, and Open University has about 2 million students in China, online. 2 million Chinese who are studying online. And of course they have this question, how do we do online education in an open university which is purely online? So maybe we can learn something about that from such books. Thank you.
Dan kita bisa belajar dari buku tersebut karena UNESCO China merupakan bagian dari Open University di Shenzhen yang mereka mempunyai 2 juta siswa digital. Dan tentunya pertanyaan mengenai policy tentang AI merupakan satu isu yang sangat penting. Thank you.
Okay. How many times? 5 minutes, okay. It's okay. So, tadi pertanyaannya Bertrand ya, tadi internet fasting I think is a good idea for us to do. Dengan perspektif bahwa internet ada good side, tetapi ada juga bad side-nya, ya kan? Digital literacy I think is very important ya. Jadi perlu ada wisdom ketika kita menggunakan internet supaya pada akhirnya kita tidak mengganggu kita punya mental health. Ya, karena di internet itu internet tidak semuanya tuh true, tidak semuanya tuh reality. Itu cuman hanya partial reality. But many times we think of it as the whole reality, but actually it's not. Ya, jadi harus ada istilahnya bijaksana dalam menggunakan internet. Digital literacy is very important. And then also we are dealing with like big waves of data. Ya kan, data masuk banyak banget kan di kita, dan kita hidup di zaman yang disebut sebagai post-truth. Post-truth itu in 2016 with two big events in the world. The first one is Brexit, Britain exit. Jadi UK keluar dari Uni Eropa, ya. Dan yang kedua, when Trump becomes the president for the first time di Amerika Serikat, mengalahkan Hillary Clinton, ya kan? Zaman di mana kebenaran tidak lagi menjadi pembentuk opini publik. Ya, we are living in a post-truth situation. Every day, ketika COVID misalnya, SMS, WA masuk ke kita, the medicine for COVID, garlic, terus sama eucalyptus, minyak kayu putih, eucalyptus oil, ya kan? And we believe that because we have no time to filter mana yang benar dan mana yang tidak. Dan kita bisa jadi menyebarkan berita hoax karena big waves, ya kan? Gelombang data is just like too high, ya. Jadi kita hidup dalam zaman post-truth, dan sekarang Trump juga terpilih menjadi Presiden Amerika Serikat, mengalahkan another woman. Jadi Amerika secanggih-canggihnya, sebebas-bebasnya, tapi ternyata masih belum bisa untuk for them to have woman as a president, ya, karena Hillary Clinton kalah, dan kemudian Kamala Harris also dikalahkan oleh Donald Trump with a serious serious facts, ya kan? Dia punya banyak sekali sejarah panjang kalau kita bicara tentang Donald Trump, but still dia menjadi presiden Amerika Serikat, ya. Zaman post-truth, dan we are living in it right now. Kita sudah tidak bisa lagi memverify this is true, this is reality or not. So this is also another challenge, ya. So pertanyaannya Samuel, ya, Samuel Marpaung, ya, thank you for the good questions. Sejak tahun 47 sampai tahun 2024 sudah 15 kali kita ganti kurikulum kurang lebih. Jadi it seems like every 5 years new minister, new kurikulum. So it's like, iya kan, aneh, ya kan. Sebenarnya tadi saya mau tampilkan di situ, tapi saya potong karena nanti jadi panjang. Tapi di jurnal yang tadi saya tampilkan itu ada di situ, nanti Samuel bisa baca. Jadi 15 kali. Nah, terus bilang apakah kurikulum Merdeka ini baik? Ya perlu dikritisi lagi begitu. Karena Merdeka Belajar, Kampus Merdeka, dan sebagainya, kurikulum Merdeka harus ditunjang oleh a good infrastructure. Harus didukung oleh sarana dan prasarana. Pemerintah harus melihat, karena di Indonesia bagian Barat, Indonesia bagian Timur, totally different context. Ya, jadi ketika kita bicara kurikulum Merdeka, I think it's good, but we are not ready yet to fully implemented the kurikulum Merdeka. And I don't know with the new menteri, apakah masih diteruskan ataukah akan ada kurikulum yang baru. So this is another challenge. And kalau UNESCO bilang learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, learning to be. Ya, jadi belajar pada akhirnya bukan untuk tahu saja, tapi belajar untuk menjadi. Nah, kebanyakan ketika ditanya tadi MPR nggak tahu apa, karena orang fokus hanya cuma untuk nilai. Jadi akhirnya belajar nggak internalize, not learning to be, just learning to know. To know hari ini, besok lupa. Dan sistem pendidikan kita, we need to learn a lot of stuff, but not going in the deep. Ya, kita harus belajar semuanya, tapi tidak deep. Jadi hari ini belajar, besok lupa. Saya tanya ke mahasiswa saya, how many percentage? Ya, if you have to give a percentage on how education is useful for you, ya, selama SD, SMP, SMA, ada yang bilang 0%, jadi yang dipakai cuma 0%. Ini buat apa kita belajar selama ini SD, SMP, SMA? Ternyata materi itu tidak relevan dengan kehidupan. Ya, justru lalu hal-hal yang penting justru kita don't know about it. Ya, so this is also another challenge. Ya, Samuel ya, dan I do hope that you, ya, all of you here, nanti kalian akan instantly become a leader. Ya, ketika jadi pendeta, you are the leader of the church. I hope that you will bring, a hope, ya, for your people, ya, especially regarding inclusive decolonial education. Jadi belajar yang benar, belajar dengan sungguh-sungguh wholeheartedly, so you can be the best version of yourself and be blessing to others. Ada amin? Okay, thank you.
Again, let's all give a round of applause to our speaker. And each one of us who have been so patient and eager to learn throughout this seminar. Before we end this seminar, this event, allow me to conclude just 2 minutes because the time is over, and I need Mr. Rio to. Seminar ini bertujuan untuk menyoroti peran penting pendidikan inklusif di era digital.
The aim of the seminar is to highlight the importance of
inclusive education.
The importance of inclusive education in the digital world.
Yang memberdayakan semua pelajar yang fokus pada signifikansi penggunaan AI dan teknologi.
With a specific focus on the use of AI and technology.
Tujuannya untuk memberikan manfaat,
to bring benefits,
yakni melayani semua orang,
which enables us to serve
di masyarakat yang semakin terorientasi pada dunia cyber.
A society which is now more oriented towards cyber world.
Yes. That's all. Let's end this event again with round of applause.
Can I add, if you allow against the rules, just add 2 things, very short. First, I'm really impressed by the moderator, this moderator, but also in the others, and thanks to the teachers who train the moderators in such a good way. And the second is go to globeethics.net, not global ethics, globeethics.net, and download as much as you can digest for free.
Become a member too.
And just register for free, then you get a newsletter, and you are part of this global movement.
Yes.
Again, thank you, Professor and Dr. Mariska and our interpreter. Let's end this event with closing prayer. Oh yeah, before that, kita akan foto bersama, take a picture together with Reverend Irene and also.
If you stand here,
Yeah, everyone.
Okay.